Welcome back to OpenLine, talking about tax reform in Tennessee, specifically the hall tax. What should be done with the hall tax? There are some who say it should be abolished. Lindsay Boyd, policy director with the Beacon Center, is among those. There are others who say the state can't afford to do that. It generates $285 million. So we're talking about that today. Let's go to Taylor. Hello, Taylor.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Ben, and to your guests. The Beacon Center makes me think of a bright light shining, and this subject would need a very bright light shined upon it. I know quite a bit about the hall income tax, and I take issue with a couple of statements that it's the little old ladies paying this, and in fact, with no state income tax, the richest in this state pay the least amount of taxes of virtually the wealthy of any state. Now, the whole income tax was reduced a few years ago from being about $385 million. Now it's down to $285. So they've been given a break on this once. And I don't propose we keep it just to have extra money to spend. We've got prisons that are falling apart. They're releasing people far too early on some serious crimes. We've got driver's license stations. You got to renew your driver's license, plan on a half to a full day to be there. So I don't see how. Of course, our sales tax on food is one of the highest in the nation.
Right.
There may be one other tying us, but it is the highest at like 9.5 to 9.75%
right.
in the nation. So I don't see how we can give up $285 million for and the $75,000, I might say, that she indicated income. I could be worth $80 million and only be reporting the income tax if I don't have a job. Just my Social Security is my payment. Other than maybe $300,000 I'm getting in dividends on huge investments.
So you think this is more about the wealthy?
The wrong move for this state, and I thank you for the show.
The wrong move for the state. Okay, Taylor, thank you. Thank you for those stats and everything. What do you think about all that?
Well, again, I just go back to what we know about the hall tax. Let's try to put our misconceptions aside and think and look at what we know. We know that 50% of the people who pay this tax make less than $75,000 a year. That does not mean that they're able to hide away other income because they're deriving income from investments. They're not reporting. If they're deriving income from investments, they're paying a tax on that through the hall tax. So we know that this tax hurts middle Americans. We know that people in our state who are farmers, for instance, who have saved away money year after year after year because they know that they have an estate that relies on investment. Those are the people that are paying this tax. The wealthiest of the wealthy actually have more means to avoid paying the tax. They either will relocate, they'll have a home in a different state for half the year so that when they do report their dividends, they're reporting it from Florida or Texas or another state that doesn't tax it. So what we're concerned about most are the people that don't have those means but are paying this tax, and it's a very steep tax for them to pay after years and years of hard-earned work. And that's just a fundamentally wrong way to do things, and it's not the Tennessee way. It's not what we try to do when we attract people to our state. It's not, having an income tax-free state with an asterisk just means that we have a blight on our record that other states don't. And when you think about who do you want to have relocate to Tennessee, you want people who've been financially responsible throughout their lives, who are going to pay into the marketplace, who are going to go out and spend money, who aren't going to draw from other state programs like Medicaid or welfare. You want people who have been responsible and frugal with their money, and you want those people living here. We want more of those people living here, and that's why we want to repeal the tax.
Taylor mentioned that there has already been a decrease in the tax. It used to generate more, so there was a higher rate. Now there's a lower rate.
The rates remain the same, but the exemption levels have been raised, and And so just last year in the legislature, they voted to raise the exemption levels up to $69,000 for a couple who pay the tax. And that's up about $10,000 from where it was the previous year.
Is there another happy medium? I mean, if you're concerned about the person making $75,000, I mean, and then you have a caller there who's concerned about millionaires getting a ride here, a freer ride, is there a way to work that out, to keep it on some level but not abolish it, raise the rate at which you pay it?
Well, sure. I mean, of course, there are ways to massage the tax to get what you want out of it. But at the end of the day, the tax is principally unsound. The tax is taking away from the hard-earned work of individuals across our state, as we as a state proclaim to be an income tax-free state. That's just the wrong message to send. It's also, you know, it's easy to say, well, if you're a multimillionaire, you can afford to pay a 6% tax on your investment income. Why shouldn't we have you pay that? The reason is that those multimillionaires are those creating jobs in our state, and they're going to look at our tax record and decide when they choose to expand or even to relocate or come to our state in the first place, and potentially make a different decision. We hear from business people all the time who tell us, we wanted to work in your state, but because of your Hall income tax, we took our jobs elsewhere. And so it's our job, it's a mission of the Beacon Center to actually get those stories out to people so that folks around our state understand what this tax truly is and how it is harming people across the income spectrum, not just from taking from their nest egg, but also preventing them from getting better jobs.
Is there a list? I mean, have you been able to identify and publish a list of people who say, I would have brought jobs here, but I'm not because of the Hall tax?
In the spring, in the early spring, as we move into session, we will be telling the stories of entrepreneurs, of business owners, as well as individual Tennesseans who have been harmed by paying this tax. And so you will hear, and I can't release any more information right now, but I can tell you that we will be releasing stories of these individuals and business owners as we move forward with a repeal effort, and it will be very clear to everyone why this tax is a tax that needs to go.
All right, let's go to Lucy. Lucy. Hello, Lucy.
Good evening. I agree with some of what you're saying. I don't agree with all of what you're saying about the Hall tax. You know, I've heard the governor say that he's going to lower this. You know, I see, the way I see it, I see a lot of millionaires or very wealthy people moving to Tennessee because we do not have an income tax, and they make sure they resident here for 6 weeks to get out of paying their tax and go back to their, you know, state of choice. What I'm concerned about with the Hall tax is if you say you're really going to lower the rate for seniors, let's start and lower it right now back to 55, because there are a lot of people in the state of Tennessee that have lost their jobs to a lower age bracket because they've cut costs and whatnot, and they've laid off a lot of people 55 and older, and they have started to have to dip out of their retirement. And the other thing about the Hall tax is, you know, you can get a break on the Hall tax if you are invested in bonds and tax-free bonds in the state of Tennessee. But I've got news for you. I don't have any funds that invest in bonds in the state of Tennessee because Tennessee has gone hog wild and borrowing money, and I'm waiting for the day that, you know, the bond rating is going to go down and hurt my initial investment. I would rather be able to shop around and put my money somewhere else, but when I do, I have to pay 6% to the state of Tennessee. And I thought the exemption was only $1,500. You know, I didn't know that it had gone up. If it's gone up, I would like to know more about that. But I really think if they're really serious and they quit their political bull, that they should lower this back to 55 for seniors, and the so-called millionaires that are walking away from jobs have enough stuff like TIF financing, income tax breaks, and everything else they don't need to worry about the Halls tax. That's
So you're
all I wanna
skeptical.
say.
You're skeptical about this. You see pros and cons, but you see some political bull.
I see political bull. I've seen Governor Haslam talk about lowering it incrementally, to help seniors, and I'm like, there's not that many seniors, that are really, making a killing or off the, dividends and stuff. But when you have to pay $1,500, in Halls tax, the way that taxes are going up in Tennessee with financing a lot of projects, and they're rolling all this tax breaks over to the average person that make up for these taxes, that's $1,500. When you're a senior citizen, is your taxes for the year on your property that you're trying to stay in, that's a small amount for maintenance,
Right. Okay, well, let's talk about, what do you think about, so she's kind of feeling both ways about this.
Sure.
What do you think about what she said there?
Well, I hear frustration about how money is being spent frivolously in many cases, and obviously we released a pork report, so we agree that that does happen. I do think that in terms of Tennessee's money management as it compares to other states, we do actually do a very good job. We do have very little debt, and so we've been fiscally responsible when you compare us to many of our neighbors, but is that really the bar that we want to set? We believe that the bar we want to set is, are we being fair to Tennessee taxpayers? And we believe that the Hall tax is not fair. And when you look at, as she suggests, all of the other spending projects going on in the state where money is going out, and then think about the fact that we're bringing money in through robbing nest eggs from our senior citizens to pay for those things, I understand why she would be frustrated about that. We're frustrated about that.
What Taylor said when he talks about waits at the DMV and several of the examples he used where Tennessee, there doesn't seem to be a lot of fat in some of these state agencies and some of these things where there are long waits, and again, we're lower on the list of where states compare. That's what Taylor and others would say.
Well, with the example of the DMV, I would just say that that's just an example of government being government. That's a government agency doing a typically poor job at servicing its citizens. And so giving more money to government to do more government-oriented work is not something that we believe is what Tennesseans really want.
All right, we're going to take a break. Jack and others, hold on the line. We will get to your call. If you want to call, there's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.